Hello everyone, this video will explore the monstrous and terrifying work of Ulysses Aldrovandi in Historia Monstrorum. Specifically, it will analyze Aldrovandi's various depictions of monsters dating back to the 17th century. A majority of Aldrovandi's illustrations share one common feature: us. Throughout this video, I argue that the inclusion of human features in illustrations sheds light on the way in which we, as a society, have developed to become what we fear the most. Analyzing these illustrations in this way allows for a better understanding of the many ways monsters have changed and developed throughout history in relation to our changing fears as a society. To illustrate this idea, I would like to focus on a couple of Aldrovandi's monstrous creations that all have a human element to them. The following images all share some sort of human-like feature, whether it be entire faces or simply specific human facial features. However, I would like to focus on the bird girl illustrated on page 337. As seen here, this photo is one of many that includes recognizable similarities to humans. This image specifically was of utmost interest to me as, upon a closer look, it appears as though the monster is a human, but with a mask covering its face. The hair drawn on this figure also more closely resembles a feminine human hairstyle. However, the bottom half of this creature is nothing short of terrifying and completely opposite to that of a human being. As one of the first images included in Aldrovandi's Historia Monstrorum, this illustration of the bird girl, as I've decided to call it, allowed me to notice an overall inclusion of human features in other drawings as well. The image depicted on page 341 shows a half-male, half-scorpion type creature. It is important to note the amount of human-like features this monster has, such as the head and the arms. This drawing has an especially significant human resemblance, which is interesting as monsters are usually something that is unfamiliar, unknown, or unimaginable. If monsters are what we fear the most, why would illustrations of them include elements that are familiar to us already? In my opinion, these images did not feel like monsters because of the inclusion of familiar human features. This lended a lot of Aldrovandi's illustrations of monsters towards being considered more human rather than monster. This difference in illustration is clear when these images are compared to other monsters also shown throughout the book. For example, in comparing the illustrations from pages 338 and 364, one can note immediately upon looking at the two images that one looks like a monster and one more so resembles a human, something we have seen before. The illustration from page 384 does not have any human features, which creates uniqueness, unfamiliarity, in turn causing fear. We require the unfamiliarity aspect when we look at a monster in order to evoke fear. Can something be said about the way that monsters do not always need to look gruesome in order to be feared? And perhaps the fact that monsters can be part animal and part human? As illustrated by Aldrovandi throughout Historia Monstrorum, much of his work suggests that monsters can look like humans. Take Aldrovandi's illustration of the half-human, half-canine from page 366 as an example. This monster is drawn in two forms, one human and one as a canine that more closely resembles a creature we would typically call a monster. Since this illustration depicts two versions of the same monster, Aldrovandi suggests here that monsters can be a part of our everyday lives due to their ability to disguise themselves as human. This way of thinking about Aldrovandi's work allows us to consider our own fears and reevaluate what we believe a monster should look like. Although existing in our deepest fears or within figments of our imagination, Aldrovandi's work depicts monsters in a more human or relatable light. Following the exploration of the monsters of Historia Monstrorum, it is apparent that our fears are not always disguised by the unknown, and rather it is what we know the best that scares us the most.